Would you like to start your own car wrapping business and hopefully scale it up to making $70,000 in monthly revenue? Well, our friend Fred did just that, and today he's going to spill the beans on how he made it happen. In this interview, we're going to talk with Fred, who's the brains behind WrapCo, and we're going to find out how he became so successful. I mean, he's worked on the Nike campus with professional athletes, and he started at a young age, right around 19, fresh out of the military. And today, they do a lot more than just car wrapping. They do digital printing, they do paint protection, and a bunch of other stuff. And today, we're going to find out how they became so successful.
There was no investors. It was just a couple $100 and a toolbox, and off I went. Well, profit margins are great because the vinyl is very inexpensive.
We got a hat coming up, so make sure you guys keep watching.
Propane torch, a blade, and a squeegee. I'm gonna take you over to one of my higher end clients, which is what I would suggest to anybody wanting to start their own business. The necessary items are gonna be your heat gun. You can pick this up at Harbor Freight for less than $15.
Today, Fred is going to share his secrets with us on how he moved his business to such new heights, how he makes more and more revenue each year, and how you too can start your own car wrapping business.
We like the quick and easy commercial stuff, kind of like this big box vehicle that we're doing here. Here we got a 488 challenge that we did some graphics on. So this kind of stuff is definitely more of a moneymaker. We're projecting to do over $1 million next year.
If you're new to the channel, make sure you leave a like and subscribe, and let's go meet the man himself. Ah, there he is. How's it going, Fred?
Yeah.
Hey, man, it's good to be here. Are you ready for this interview?
Yes, sir.
Hey,
good.
All right, let's make it happen. All right. So, Fred, tell me, what's your background? How'd you even get into this business that you have here?
Well, I started off when I was in the military, in the Marine Corps down in San Diego, and I would see cars drive by that were kind of fixed up. Yeah. And from there, I fell in love with cars in general. Came back up here to Oregon, and the import scene wasn't very popular yet. So I started fixing up my cars and my friends' cars, and it just kind of developed from there into a business that I started behind my parents' clothing store back in about 1999.
Nice. And have you always had a passion for cars or, being creative like when you were a kid, or?
Yes, I got a lot of the business sense from my parents, from their small business that they started. So I didn't go to school for business. I just kind of learned by trial and error mostly. So that's one thing I wish I could have done is gone back and done a little bit more schooling. It would have probably helped me everything speed along a little faster.
All right, Fred, we're here in your office, man. Can we get a tour of the place? Can we get a...
Sure thing, let's do it.
All right, let's go.
So here we got our printers,
okay,
and our tables where we get all the signs and all the commercial printing done.
Nice.
We've got bay number 1 where we do some of the smaller vehicle installs. Bay number 2 where we got the big rigs, all the much larger jobs that won't fit in normal shops that don't have 14-foot tall bay doors.
Right, because some shops don't have these here.
Correct.
Gotcha. Definitely plenty of space.
Yeah. Here's where we do all the paint protection, the window tinting, and ceramic coating as well.
Very cool.
So a little bit of everything.
Yeah, you guys, it looks like you utilize almost all of this space that you got here.
I think we're pretty close to outgrowing it as well. So.
Okay, that's not a bad problem.
No, not at all.
Very cool. All right, Fred, we see you're so successful now, but when you first started off, how did you get off the ground, financially? Do you have an investor? Did you save money? How'd you get it going?
I was never good at saving money.
Okay.
And there was no investors. It was just a couple $100 and a toolbox, and off I went. Okay. Just kind of developed from there into this building. Nice. I'll show you the toolbox.
Yeah, let's check it out.
So, toolbox just like this one.
Okay.
And so before I didn't have a location for vehicles to come, so I would go to the locations or to a business and do the installation there. So all they needed was my propane torch, a blade, and a squeegee.
Wow.
Simple as that.
And for you, how much did something like this cost to get you started in the beginning?
Probably about $100.
Oh, not bad.
About $100, yeah.
Nice. And how long did you use something like this before you actually did get an office or some infrastructure like you have now?
I would say about no more than a year. No
really?
More than a year. And then I eventually got into a building where I rented a space from a friend. Mm-hmm. And then eventually I got to renting half of that shop. And then eventually I moved into the biggest shop in our complex now. Here.
Got you. So you were actually making a profit using just this to start off, kind of?
Yes. Okay. It was making plenty of profit. And eventually I just realized I needed a building to make to get some of the more profitable jobs.
And now, when you first started off with just this here, was it only you, or you had a partner, or
just me myself?
Wow, man, that's awesome. For overhead, what's that like for you guys? Now that you guys have scaled to, this huge, infrastructure you got here.
I've tried to keep it small, but our overhead is right near about $25,000 a month.
Okay.
And so we have to make that $25,000 first before we can start seeing some profit.
Right.
Definitely employees is going to be the big one, and then the size, depending on the size of the shop. But our shop is the next biggest overhead as well as materials like vinyl and things like that.
Yeah. So would you say that materials is what you spend the most money on every month, or is it something else you think? Outside of employees, of course.
Outside of employees, it's going to be the materials, the inks for the printer, and tools that might break. But that's about it. It's not too much right after employees and the shop.
And for you, does that change at all throughout the year? Like, maybe in winter months compared to summer, or no, all year you're going to need a certain amount of vinyl, certain amount of.
It used to be more seasonal for us when we were only working on people's cars, because mostly people wanted to only fix up their cars during the summer.
Okay.
But now that we do a lot more of the corporate stuff, now we're just busy all year round now.
So when it comes to car wrapping, for someone just getting started, what are some of the equipment that they could use at the minimum? If they only got a couple dollars, maybe $500, $300.
Yeah.
What can they start off with that type of money?
I would say the necessary items are going to be your heat gun. You can pick this up at Harbor Freight for less than $15.
Okay.
Squeegee, knife. The vinyl roll will vary. You can get a roll of vinyl as cheap as $300. Some vinyl, the printed vinyl could be 4 times that. So it just depends on what kind of job you're doing, whether you're doing a color change or a commercial print.
Sure. And would you say for a lot of these things here, you can get them at like a hardware store, or you got to go to a specialty shop for these type of?
No, you can pick this up at Harbor Freight. Amazon has actual full kits you can order that comes with everything. Some of the stuff might be a little on the cheaper end, but like I said, eventually you could work up to getting the higher end stuff.
Nice. And that's perfect, because later on in the video, we got a hack coming up. So make sure you guys keep watching, because coming up soon, we got a hack and a tip for you coming up. What was your revenue like in your first year? Did you make a lot of money? Did you,
No.
break even?
I don't think I broke even. I had to have a part-time job at first, which is what I would suggest to anybody wanting to start their own business is have a steady income from somewhere else.
Okay.
And then slowly, as you go developing your skills and getting more clients, eventually branching off.
Okay.
Once you're able to sustain the amount of money that you need in order to live. But I probably barely made $20,000 the first year.
Really? Now, for you though, was that a win? Were you still feeling optimistic, or were you kind of like, maybe I should just get a regular job?
There were a lot of ups and downs. Definitely in the beginning, a lot more downs than ups. But eventually, it started panning out. And once I saw that, it was kind of like a light at the end of the tunnel, and just kind of went for it.
So in the very beginning, we saw you started out of this small box here. Were you just doing regular cars that, me and you would drive, or were you doing commercial, vehicles as well when you first, jumped off?
Well, when I first started, I was working on just import cars, fixing them up, and I started dabbling in graphics there. Eventually, some of my friends got their own businesses and wanted me to do some commercial stuff, and slowly I started seeing how there was more money in that. But when I first started, I was wrapping cars from my home garage, so it was a lot smaller than this. I do have an example of a vehicle that we recently wrapped.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. Yeah, for sure. Now, I'm not a car guy, so you have to tell me exactly what type of vehicle is this right here.
So this is a BMW M4.
Okay.
So these type of cars, I couldn't wrap them from my garage at home, because it's a little bit more work, needed a cleaner space, some more tools to take it all apart and everything. So we wrapped this one in the 3M brush metal look. If you look up close, you can see the grain on it.
Got you. Now, what color was this originally before you guys touched it?
It was white. It was bright white.
Okay.
So that was extra work getting it all covered up, so you can't see a hint of white, including the door jambs. And I think that's what sets us apart from other wrap shops is that we get down to the details, make sure everything is taken apart correctly and put back together perfectly.
When it comes to advertising, marketing, for you, what are some of the social media platforms or apps that, you like to use to get the word out and, talk about what you guys do here?
Right now, we just use Facebook and Instagram. My friends are on my Facebook. They'll share some of the cooler stuff.
Okay.
And then pretty much word gets out that way. We don't really use any kind of ads or things like that.
Sure.
We might eventually down the road if we start to slow down, but I don't see us slowing down really much for a while.
And have you guys been using like Facebook for a while now, or is that something new that you guys have been doing?
I've used Facebook since it came out.
Okay.
And just kind of developed a following there.
Sure.
From my previous business as well, and it's definitely helped out a lot. And then when Instagram came around, that's further helped as well, get the outreach even further.
Nice. And I was going to say, pretty much everybody in the world is on Facebook. Do you get a lot of clients that, when they come over to you guys, they say, oh, I saw you on Facebook, or I saw you? Does that ever happen for you guys, or?
Yes, definitely Facebook, and lately we through Google, because we have a 5-star rating across the board on Google, and so that definitely helps out to have great reviews.
Nice. When it comes to profit margins, what are those like for you? Especially now that you got this huge, building almost taking up the whole block.
Yeah.
What's it like for you nowadays?
Well, profit margins are great because the vinyl is very inexpensive. You can take a small piece of vinyl about this size, it costs you pennies, and I mean, after labor is the most expensive part of it. After labor, you can charge say $60 to install a small part. So it all depends on how you want to scale it. You can keep it small and just do it from your garage at home or a room at home. You can sell decals online, or you can just scale it up to where you've got a big, huge building with a ton of equipment, millions of dollars worth of equipment, and solely only work with large corporate companies.
So it kind of just depends on what you decide to do as far as like your clientele, kind of sounds like.
Yes, correct, and how much work you can take on, whether or not you want to hire more people to do help you out with larger projects, or to be able to be doing multiple projects at different locations at the same time.
When you first started, were you hoping to get to this level where you're doing cars like this on a regular basis, or, that type of thing?
Yes and no. Eventually, the nice cars came, but now that we're doing more of the commercial stuff, we like the quick and easy commercial stuff, kind of like this big bucks vehicle that we're doing here.
Okay, yeah, that's a big boy you guys got there.
Yeah, so got my guys over here wrapping this vehicle for T-Mobile that they take to different shows and events.
Yeah.
So this kind of stuff is definitely more of a moneymaker than your color change wrapping. Something like this BMW takes a week to do roughly. Ooh. Where this we can do it in a couple of days and make more profit from it.
Wow. And is this something that even back then you wanted to do? You're hoping to get to, bigger vehicles and commercial stuff like this, or?
It definitely just kind of developed over time. I started off doing small mom and pop paint shops or landscapers, and then eventually, you've got big corporate clients calling you.
Wow.
Just kind of doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, and the money's not bad, I'm sure.
No, definitely not.
Very cool. We heard about what you were making back when you started back in the 90s. Now in 2021, what's revenue looking like, nowadays for you?
For our sales now for the year, like last year, was about a little over 500,000. So we're projecting to do over $1 million next year, hopefully. So everything keeps going on the track that we're going now.
Nice. And tell me this, when you started back then, were you hoping that you would get to the point where you're at now, at least revenue-wise, that you'd be bringing in this much?
I was hoping for that it would take less than a year, but things happen so slowly, so it's taken close to a decade for that.
Right. Now, but now that you're here, are you happy that that process, took the time that it did, or do you wish, I wish it would have been,
I wish it would have been quicker, but I would definitely suggest to anybody who has their own business or starting off to take things slow, not grow so fast. That's one mistake I did make when I was younger. Was I went from a small shop at one point and jumped into a huge warehouse, and the overhead was a little bit too high, so I had to go back and downsize at one point in my business career.
Nice.
So definitely watch out for that. Hey guys, I'm going to take you over to one of my higher-end clients. I'm going to show you what we do to their vehicles and how you can get your own higher-end clients as well. So we're here at my client Vital Speeds. This is their warehouse. Here we got a 488 challenge that we did some graphics on. We did all the wrapping on the spoiler, the stripe graphics, and all the various sponsors on it. As you can see, it's a full race car. Nothing that's streetable. So in this case, we had to come to the customer. We couldn't have this car be brought over to us.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's a pretty expensive car, and not sure if my insurance would
cover that.
Would cover all of this.
Geico might not.
Yeah.
How long did it take for you guys to work on something like this here?
Printing, producing the graphics about a day, and then installation about half of a day. But this is one of many cars that they own, and so when we come out here, we're usually working on various 3 to 4 cars.
Got you. And would you say, as far as high-end cars go, this is probably the highest you guys have done, or you think?
Yes, definitely the highest. Occasionally, we'll get at our shop some Rolls Royces or Bentleys and things like that. But this is definitely, because these are modified for racing, they're definitely worth a lot more money than a typical street race or street Ferrari.
For employees, how many folks do you have working here? What's wages like for you guys, and even how do you find someone who can do wrapping and all the things that you guys offer?
So we have about 4 full-time people here, and then some subcontractors in case we get really busy or have a large project. But so we're trying to keep it smaller, but they can make anywhere between $20 an hour and up, depending on experience.
Gotcha.
Right now, as you know, it's hard to find employees right now.
It is.
And so we've kind of had a little bit of a problem with that, but we'd be probably good with at least 1 or 2 more people in case anybody's looking.
Sure, yeah. And for your team, do you prefer for it to be kind of condensed, or do you one day want to have 20, 30 folks running around here?
I prefer to keep it smaller. Just less stress that way.
Yeah. And of course, we know in the early years it was just you by yourself. How long did it take for you to get up to 4 or 5, or the gang you have now?
It was me by myself for several years. I would say up until recently, about 2 years ago, is when we started hiring more people on as we got busier and busier.
Got you. So Fred, you've been doing this for a while now. You started way back in around '99. When you first started, how long did it take for you to break even, just to even make exactly what you put into the business?
Not that long. Not that long, because like I said, the materials are really inexpensive. The tools to get started are pretty cheap, and so it happened pretty quick.
Nice.
It was when I wanted to start scaling the business up that I needed to come up with a little bit more money, so the projects just kind of had to get a little bit larger.
Sure. And what was that feeling like when you finally did break even? Were you exhausted from all the work you put in, or was it a feeling of you got the monkey off your back, kind of?
Honestly, I feel like sometimes I feel like I'm not broken even yet because of all the goals that I have, and so usually after so many goals are met, there's some relief in between.
Yeah. And do you have maybe any advice for those who are getting into business and they're working on trying to break even? Because I know I'm sure it's probably a tough process. You got to have some patience.
A lot of patience, but definitely make sure your pricing is right and you're competitive with other places around you.
So for someone who's at home, maybe they're into cars, they might be into Fast and Furious, for them, if they have nothing, or if they have maybe enough money for a toolkit like you had, what would you say are some of the steps starting off they should, do to,
If they want to get started into wrapping, any kind of vehicle wrapping or commercial wrapping, first you got to get step 1 is get your vinyl roll. Get your heat gun, basically your tools, your squeegee, your knife, and then step 2, probably get on YouTube University. There's plenty of tips and tricks on how to get everything done. And then step 3, post it up on your social media. Let your friends see it. Do a friend's car for cheap or even for free, and then help spread the word that way.
Do you think it might even be easier for somebody at home to get started because we have YouTube, Google?
Much easier. When I first started, there was no social media. So it was just all friends, word of mouth, and just doing the right work and just went from there.
Wow. I mean, you guys heard it here from a professional. The year is 2021. You got Google, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those things that you could do from home. He's telling you, use those resources. You see how successful he is. Take advantage of that and get started. YouTube University, he said, go ahead and get your degree. How do you go about finding, a good subcontractor, someone you can rely on to, get the work done?
Sometimes it's difficult. Online, they'll have postings through friends. You can put the word out that you're looking for somebody who's a subcontractor, and they're definitely a big benefit. If someone at home is definitely trying to look for how to get jobs done, you can always outsource. I started off by outsourcing my printing, my design, and labor, until eventually I had people doing it full-time here.
Nice. And for you, obviously you have full-time employees. What's kind of the difference between, your full-time folks and, the subcontractors you bring in, to work for you?
That's the benefit with subcontractors. You don't have to have them full-time, paying them full-time. You can just pay them per job or for the hours that he works.
Nice.
And so just a little bit helps out with the overhead there.
And would you say probably going forward in the future, you're going to continue to have a mix of full-time staff and subcontractors as well, or?
Yes, definitely. Full-time help for the work that we have here, and then whenever we get a run of more work or stuff that we can't handle, then we call in the subcontractors.
Got you. Okay, yep, makes sense. All right, guys, you've made it to the Blitz question portion of the video. You know what time it is. We're going to ask him a few quick questions. He's got to give us a few quick answers. Fred, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do it. All right, first question. What are your plans for the next 5 to 10 years business-wise?
Business-wise, I want to expand the current business that I have and start up other businesses as I currently have been already.
Sure. With your current business, what made you even start it? What was the inspiration or motivation for it?
I think my parents owning their own business. Okay. I saw them go through owning their business, and I was intrigued.
Nice. If you were to start another business in another field, what do you think it would be?
It's something automotive.
Okay, got you. Yeah, same lane. What's a future goal or something you're reaching for, a target that you want to hit?
Like a 5-year goal to expand more, and bring on a couple more people.
Got you. Sounds good. If you could go back to before the pandemic started, what's one thing that you wish you would have known in advance before everything kind of shut down?
Definitely have been more prepared with larger savings account.
Okay, yeah, savings. That's good. Tell me about a bad habit that you have that it gets on your nerves and you hate it.
I say yes to too much stuff.
Okay, you're a yes man. When you're not running the business, what do you like to do in your downtime, in your free time?
Travel. I like to travel a lot.
Nice, travel. And then what's an immediate red flag for you in the industry or when you're working?
I would say taking too long on a project.
Okay, got you. When things just, it's taking a while.
Yeah, but you want to make sure you go through projects quickly, but make sure they're done right at the same time.
Nice.
That's the difficult part.
There we go. Hey, Fred did it. Those are the Blitz questions for us, guys. When it comes to advertising, marketing, one, how much do you spend on advertising and marketing? 2, what kind of style do you use for that? And 3, what do you feel like you get the most bang for your buck for? What are you seeing that actually works, for you guys?
Well, we don't currently. We're not spending anything on advertising, so we're fortunate that our word of mouth has carried on and kept us busy. But there were times whenever we'd slow down with, say, a certain service like window tinting or the paint protection film, where we would put Facebook ads out pertaining to that service in order to drive more work for the employee.
Nice. And would you say that Facebook, I know you mentioned earlier, a lot of your friends and family and, car enthusiasts are on there. Yep. Is that where you would say you got some good results from Facebook using
Definitely
them?
Facebook and Instagram. Uploading as much as you can on there, the work before and after, pictures of your work, videos of you doing the work, definitely helps out a lot. People like to see that stuff.
Because you guys are in the car culture and that's so big, especially online and, tuners and street cars, street racing, do you ever find employees in those environments or, you have people come to get their car worked on and they happen to know something about wrapping or, anything like that?
Yes, definitely the experience in the automotive field or mechanics who know how to disassemble vehicles, that definitely helps out with what we do. So they at least can help us with the disassembly and reassembly, and we can slowly train them in the wrapping from there.
Got you. Because, I would assume a lot of people out there who are especially into cars, this might be like a dream job for them or something that, they might might love, putting this together every day. So
definitely, we offer a lot of services that somebody can learn. They can also cross train in different stuff. They can, if they come in as a tinner, they can learn how to wrap pretty easily.
Okay.
Or do the paint protection film as well.
Got you. So for, say, someone out there looking for a job and then, interested in working for you and your team here, how should they reach you? Should they go through the website, give you a call, or,
Definitely, there are emails on our website on WrapCoPDX.com.
Okay.
Would be the best way. Send in a resume.
Nice. If you're looking for a job, hit them up. You've been doing this a long time. What are some of the skills you've been using over the years that, every day you kind of have to, put into your work that you do?
I would say definitely the work ethic is a big one, because this industry requires sometimes long hours. Some customers need stuff done right away, and so when you're able to meet the deadlines, is definitely a big plus in their book. With installation, it could be laborious, so definitely be in shape.
You are.
Thank you. I have to do some meditation every morning, kind of deal with the day-to-day stresses.
Yeah.
But it pays off. If you want to do on the printing side, the digital side, I would say taking some courses. I took an online course that helped me with some creative and some design help as well.
And would you say, because you got a lot of technology around you, would you say that a lot of these machines, they take care of a good chunk of it, and then the labor part on your end is really after the machine does its job, kind of? Or
yes, it takes some work to get the file set up, but eventually it's kind of like printing money when you leave it alone. And sometimes some people, they like to leave it running overnight. I would like to, but don't trust the machine just yet.
Yeah.
But for example, like this job that we're doing for Nike, I'd want to keep a close eye on it, make sure that everything is printing correctly, that there's no discrepancies in the print, or that the material or ink is going to bunch up or run out.
Fred, you've been in the game for a while now. How did you know when to grow your business, when it was time to, level up a little bit?
Well, after learning from a previous mistake of growing too fast, I tried to grow it as slow as possible, up until the point where I was forced to grow it. Like, let's say if I was needing to do multiple vehicles, so I had to upgrade from a smaller garage to a garage that could fit more vehicles, up until the point where I can fit 8 to 10 vehicles in the place I am now. So I usually would let it kind of just happen naturally, but if I were to want to scale it up even quicker, then I'd maybe get a loan and get, in order to be able to hire more people, and then go from there.
Yeah. And what was kind of your strategy when you did it yourself? When you went from, working either out of that toolkit or going into a building to even where you guys are now, a huge garage, what was kind of your planning in those steps there?
I've always had a step up that I wanted to get up to, a level that I wanted to get up to. And so I've always waited until the money was there and until do it without really getting too much into getting loans or things like that. So kind of, once again, kind of letting it kind of happen on its own.
All right, guys, we've made it to that point of the video. It's time for the hack, the tip, the advice, the wisdom that you've all been waiting for. Fred has it here for us. We're going to find out exactly what it is. Fred, what can you tell the folks at home that they need to know?
All right, guys. A year ago, I wouldn't be telling you this because then you'd be my competition, and I wouldn't want that. So now that I have them all at work, there's plenty of work to go around. But the hack is get certified. Contact 3M, Avery, some of the top wrap companies. They have their own training centers. You can go there, fly there. They're usually about a couple $1,000s, but it's worth it. You could probably make your money back within your first job, because they will actually put you on their website, and other people looking for installers, higher end clientele, will actually go to their website and punch in where they're at, and it'll locate installers around them. So it works for anybody in the United States, even in Europe as well.
And don't forget, he's also looking for some new blood down at the shop. So if you get certified, if you do what you got to do, you might have a job with Fred here. So who knows? When you work with companies like Nike or T-Mobile, outside of obviously you guys getting paid, for you, are there fringe benefits to doing that? Are those like dream gigs, or, it's just nice to have that business from these, corporate, entities basically?
It's definitely nice to have that business. It feels great. At the beginning, I never thought I would ever work with companies this size, but it's definitely makes it look better for a brighter future.
Yeah, and then money-wise, is it a significant profit compared to if you're doing just my car or somebody else? Or
yes, it is. The corporate businesses definitely they pay well. Sometimes they take a little longer to pay. So if you want to get into working with corporate companies, you definitely want to have a reserve, because they can take 60, 90 days to pay.
Really?
And you have already paid out on materials, and so it could kind of bottleneck you for a little bit if you're not careful.
What's something so far in your career and in the history of your business that you think was a mistake, or you might have slipped up on and you wish maybe didn't happen?
Well, I wish I would have got more education before starting the whole thing. It definitely would have helped out with all the hurdles that I had to jump through.
Sure.
Would have made things a lot easier.
And would you say that for those who are out there and want to start a small business or even get into car wrapping, that they should do some level of education or training, or apprentice, intern, something like that?
Minimally, I'd at least get certified with the wrap company. But if you want to take on owning a whole business like the size of ours, I would definitely say as much education as possible. As much college as you can. If not, at least resort to listening to some ebooks. Those are just as great.
Sure, absolutely. Well, Fred, first off, we want to thank you for allowing us to get into your world. Give us a tour of your facility. Let us, talk and hobnob with some of your employees there. And we appreciate it. We really had a good time. And
anytime, love having you guys there.
Thank you. And for UpFlip, I'm Justice Rogers. Fred here. Thanks again, Fred.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. All right, guys, you've made it to the end of the video. We had a great time with Fred today. He took us on a tour around his facility. He gave us advice. He told you about the education, certifications, different tools, pieces of equipment you can use. Honestly, I learned a lot, and I hope you guys did too. And as always, we hope that you will like this video. We hope you'll subscribe to our channel, and we hope that you leave a comment below. We do read the comments. If there's a certain video you want to see about a certain business or industry, let us know in the comments below. We'll read it, and hopefully we can take care of it for you guys. And as always, for UpFlip, I'm Justice Rogers.